4 years ago, he walked away choosing ambition, wealth, and another woman over the woman who carried his child. He believed he had made the right decision, leaving her alone and heartbroken, unaware that she had given him not one, but 2 sons. Time passed, life moved on, and his conscience buried itself under business deals and high-rises, until a hospital call shattered his carefully built world. Standing in the ICU, he saw his wife, fragile and fighting between life and death, surrounded by the 2 boys he never knew existed. The moment their eyes met, memories, regrets, and unspoken words collided. Could he undo the mistakes of the past? Could he protect them now? Or had destiny already sealed their fates? This is a story of betrayal, redemption, and the unbreakable bond of family against all odds. The city's skyline gleamed under the setting sun, its golden reflections mocking the emptiness in his penthouse. Adrian Blackwood, a self-made millionaire CEO, adjusted his cufflinks as if the perfect fit could somehow fix the cracks in his life. 4 years ago, he had walked away from Alina, the woman he once promised forever to, ignoring the subtle curve of her baby bump. He told himself it was ambition, destiny, a business decision, but deep down, he knew it was fear. Fear of commitment, fear of responsibility, fear of being tied down to a life that demanded more than boardroom power. Alina had begged, pleaded, her eyes shimmering with hope and betrayal. She had carried his children, his legacy, and he had chosen someone else, someone who promised glamour, influence, and effortless smiles. That was the day he crossed the line from love to regret. Life moved on. Alina disappeared from his social feeds, his circles, and even his thoughts until a call arrived that shattered his polished world. The hospital. His heart thumped erratically as he entered the ICU. Machines beeped steadily, echoing the fragile rhythm of a life hanging by threads. There she was, Alina, pale tubes running into her arms, a battle between life and death written on her exhausted face. And beside her, 2 small boys, 4 years old, holding hands, looking at him with the same blue eyes he had inherited. The truth hit him like a lightning bolt. They were his sons. Memories flooded back, every laugh, every argument, every moment he had abandoned them. His chest tightened. Could he even call them his own now? Would she ever forgive him? And most painfully, could he save her? He swallowed hard, forcing a steady breath. Life, he realized, didn't wait for apologies. It demanded action. And right now, the life of the woman he had left and the children he never knew depended on him. Adrian stood frozen in the ICU doorway, his sharp suit feeling absurd against the sterile hospital environment. The smell of antiseptic, the low hum of machines, and the faint beeping of monitors seemed to amplify his panic. The 2 little boys stared at him, wittied, unsure, but somehow familiar. His heart skipped when he realized how much they resembled him. The same dark hair, the same deep-set eyes that held both curiosity and fear. Alina, barely conscious, stirred slightly at the sound of his voice. Adrian, she whispered, her voice weak, hoarse, barely more than a breath. Every ounce of guilt he had buried for 4 years came crashing down. He had abandoned her in her most vulnerable state, and now she was fighting for her life. And he had to face the consequences. The boys clung to each other as if the world had turned upside down for them. Daddy, the older one asked, a trembling note of hope in his voice. Adrian's throat went dry. His children, his sons, his family that had been hidden from him all these years. He wanted to reach out, to hold them, to make things right, but the reality of the hospital walls reminded him that he was powerless against the illness that threatened Alina. He swallowed the lump in his throat and knelt to meet the boys at eye level. I'm your father, he whispered, barely audible. But it was enough. Their tiny hands grasped his fingers, and for the first time in years, Adrian felt the weight of responsibility, not the weight of his empire, but the weight of love, protection, and redemption. Nurses bustled around, checking machines and adjusting drips. Adrian realized he had no time to waste. Alina needed him not just emotionally, but practically. He had to step into the role he had refused years ago. He had to be a father, a protector, a man worthy of forgiveness. The boys' eyes never left his, silently demanding the father they had been deprived of, the man who had vanished from their lives but was now standing before them. And Adrian, the millionaire CEO who had conquered the business world, realized the hardest challenge of his life wasn't closing deals, it was saving his family. The fluorescent lights above the ICU glared down like unforgiving witnesses. Adrian paced the hallway, his polished shoes clicking against the cold tiles. He had spent 4 years building empires, attending galas, closing multi-million-dollar deals, but none of it mattered now. None of it compared to the fragile forms of his 2 sons inside the hospital room and the woman he had abandoned, barely clinging to life. He remembered the night he had walked away. Alina, radiant and pregnant, had begged him to stay, to fight through the challenges together. But blinded by ambition, by fear of responsibility, he had left. 4 years later, he was confronted with the consequences. Not just a dying wife, but sons he had never known, their tiny faces holding the pain of absence and confusion. Entering the room, Adrian felt a lump rise in his throat. The boy's eyes widened at his presence, a mixture of hope and wariness. The older one, clutching a small blanket, whispered, "Are you really, Daddy?" His voice was small, tentative, yet loaded with expectation. Adrian knelt slowly, keeping his voice calm, steady. "Yes, I'm your father. I should have been here. I'm so sorry." The boys hesitated, but slowly reached out, tiny fingers brushing against his hands. It was an awkward, tentative connection, yet it sent a jolt through Adrian's heart, proof that even after years, bonds of blood and love could survive absence. Elena's eyes fluttered open. She was pale, weak, and hooked to machines, yet she caught Adrian's gaze. A weak, pained smile formed on her lips. "You came back," she whispered. Tears threatened to spill from Adrian's eyes. He had returned not for business, not for a deal, but for the family he had forsaken. Hours passed in tense silence. Nurses checked vitals, adjusted medications, and whispered updates. But Adrian's focus was entirely on Alina and his sons. Every beep of the monitors felt like a countdown, a reminder of how fragile life could be. He held his sons' hands, telling them stories he had missed, laughing quietly at the smallest things, an innocent giggle, a clumsy hug, the way they clung to each other for comfort. Finally, the doctor approached, a serious look shadowing her professional calm. "Her condition is critical. We've stabilized her for now, but she needs constant care. Emotional stress, infections, any sudden change, it could tip the balance." Adrian swallowed hard. The reality hit him like a tidal wave. This wasn't just about apologies or promises, it was about action. He had to stay. He had to fight. He had to become the father and husband he should have been from the start. That night, Adrian did something he hadn't done in years. He slept beside the ICU room, a chair pulled close to Elena's bed. His son slept on a small cot nearby, clutching his coat as if it were a shield against the uncertainty of life. For the first time, Adrian felt the weight of responsibility, not as a CEO who commanded buildings and money, but as a man who held lives in his hands. Days blurred into nights. Adrian learned the rhythm of the ICU, the subtle signs that signaled danger, and the tiny victories that signaled hope. He talked to Alina softly, telling her stories, recounting memories, promising a future he could barely imagine. The boys, initially shy and fearful, slowly warmed up to him. They laughed again, shared secrets, and even teased him in the way children tease parents. One evening, as the sun filtered through the hospital blinds, Adrian watched his sons build a small fortress with hospital pillows on the floor. Their laughter echoed through the room. Alina, still weak but stable, whispered, You never left them completely, did you?" Adrian shook his head, tears spilling down his cheeks. "I'll never leave again, I promise." For the first time in 4 years, the billionaire CEO felt powerless, yet deeply alive. Power, money, and influence could not save a life, but love, attention, and presence could. And he would dedicate every second to his family. The ICU was quiet except for the rhythmic beeping of monitors. Adrian sat in the chair beside Elena's bed, his fingers gently holding hers. 4 years of absence weighed heavily on him, but now every moment mattered. He had missed so much: the first kicks, the first steps, the first words, but he could not undo the past. All he could do was fight for the present and the future. Elena stirred slightly, her eyes opening slowly. Though weak, the recognition in her gaze was unmistakable. "Adrian," she whispered, her voice fragile but filled with emotion. Tears brimmed in his eyes. He leaned closer. "I'm here, Alina. I'm not going anywhere this time." The boys, now fully aware of the gravity of the situation, clung to each other and peered at their father. The younger one, clutching a hospital blanket, whispered, "Daddy, is Mama going to be okay?" Adrian knelt to their level, holding both their hands. "We're going to get through this together. I promise. All of us. Together." Days turned into nights of constant vigilance. Adrian learned every routine, every subtle sign that indicated Elena's body was struggling. He coordinated with doctors and nurses, studied her medications, and even helped with small care tasks, holding her hand, wiping her forehead, and talking to her when she was awake. His son stayed close, drawing crayons on hospital paper, telling silly stories, and reminding him that even in the tension of life and death, moments of joy could exist. One evening, a critical alarm blared. Adrian's heart skipped a beat as the nurse rushed over. Elena's vitals were unstable. Panic surged, but he remained calm, following the nurse's directions precisely. Doctors worked swiftly, and Adrian watched, helpless yet hopeful, praying silently. After what felt like an eternity, the machine stabilized. Adrian exhaled deeply, holding his sons close, their little arms wrapped tightly around him. Relief washed over him. This was a battle won, but not yet the war. Weeks passed. Elena slowly regained strength, her color returning, her voice gaining firmness. She could sit up with Adrian supporting her, smiling weakly but genuinely. Their sons ran around, playing and laughing, their energy a reminder of the life that had continued despite Adrian's absence. The room, once filled with tension and fear, was now infused with warmth and love. Adrian realized that redemption wasn't a single act, it was consistent, daily presence, proving through actions that he had changed. He read stories to his sons at night, helped Elena walk short distances, and held family dinners in the hospital room, complete with simple meals and laughter that felt sacred. Finally, the day came when Elena was cleared to leave the ICU. She stood, a little unsteady, leaning on Adrian's arm. The boys held her hands on either side, beaming with joy. Adrian felt a swell of pride and relief. They had survived the worst together, and now the future was theirs to shape. As they stepped out of the hospital, sunlight warmed their faces. Adrian looked down at his sons, their laughter ringing like music, then at Elena, her hand intertwined with his. In that moment, he knew that wealth, power, or status could never match the value of family, love, and second chances. He knelt briefly to the boy's level, brushing a strand of hair from the younger one's forehead. "I promise, I'll always be here, no matter what." Elena rested her head against his shoulder, smiling softly. "Welcome back. To us." Adrian had returned not just as a CEO, but as a father, a husband, a man who had learned that the greatest success was the family he had once abandoned. Now, never again would he let go. The sun set on the city skyline, golden light bathing them in warmth. Outside, life continued in its rush, but inside their hearts, time had slowed every beat, every breath, every laugh, and every tear a testament to love regained and life reborn. CTA, 100 words. If you've ever faced a second chance, you know it's never too late to make things right. Adrian's journey shows that true wealth is measured not in money or power, but in family, love, and the courage to return to what truly matters. Witness this emotional reunion and let it remind you to cherish your loved ones. Embrace forgiveness and fight for every precious moment. Don't miss the full story of redemption, hope, and a father's unwavering love. Watch till the end and feel the power of love that can heal even the deepest wounds. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit like and share it with someone who loves emotional stories. Life is full of unexpected twists, second chances, and moments that remind us what truly matters: family, love, and forgiveness. Every choice we make can change lives, and sometimes, it takes a shock or reunion to realize the value of the people around us. Subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories like this one, stories that make you laugh, cry, and reflect on life. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Comment below your thoughts. What would you do if you were in his place? Share your experiences or tag someone who needs to watch this. Remember, every story has a lesson, and sometimes, the smallest moments bring the biggest realizations. Watch till the end and let the emotions move you.